Hello, and welcome back to the Gut Glow Reset program. Today, I'm excited to talk about the gut and the liver, as well as bile health, gallbladder health, because these things are so interconnected and so important when you're trying to work on healing the gut. So, let's get into it. As you see on the left here, an imbalanced and bloated gut, a gut that maybe has imbalanced microbiome, maybe you were diagnosed with IBS, maybe SIBO. We know that the liver then becomes taxed, and the liver has to work harder to do its everyday tasks and activities. So it's really important for us to focus on liver health and how we can support that as we're focusing on gut healing. So here we have an overview of just some of the major liver functions. So biotransformation, basically it's breaking down a lot of toxins in our diet, whether it's drugs, antibiotics, ammonia from alcohol and other substances, glucose. We really need to break down glucose to then enter the bloodstream. Then we have storage forms of vitamins, glycogen, which is the storage form of carbohydrates. We have lipids, which is a storage form of fats. Then we have synthesis of certain factors like albumin, which is a protein found in the blood, and growth factors. So the liver, we know it's doing a lot of tasks every single day. It's getting things from circulation to then be excreted in the gut as needed. It's also recycling a lot of our nutrition, like we said before, and trying to break down a lot of hormones in the body as well, like cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So when we're stressed, we actually give our liver more of a job to do as well. And the gut and the liver are like a two-lane highway constantly communicating. They're directly connected via the portal vein, and the liver is receiving a continual supply of nutrients, of microbes that are in the gut. They're always receiving different things coming from the gut. The gallbladder, bile, and the whole microbiome are all important in the excretion and detoxification process. So if the gut is not well balanced and it's not in good shape, you don't have a lot of good bacteria, it's going to be difficult for the liver to do its job of detoxification. So toxin overload is very likely with that, and so it's important for us to focus on some of the key points in this lecture, because we really need to make sure that the liver is being supported in our diet if we're going through something like IBS, bacterial overgrowth, and gut problems. And we know with a lot of dysbiosis or bacterial overgrowth, there's also gut permeability going on. We also have another video lecture all about that. And we also know that the liver takes on endotoxins that are produced by bacteria in our gut, those pathogenic bacteria called lipopolysaccharides or LPS. So the liver feels it when we have a high LPS level from pathogenic bacteria, or from when bacteria are not so friendly and they're overgrowing, they're going into your bloodstream, and they're causing inflammation and fatigue. This can then also lead to increased fat deposits in the liver. It can cause liver inflammation if that bacterial overgrowth goes unchecked over years and years and years. That's why it's so important to address when you know there is an issue going on with your gut, because the rest of your organ systems will feel this. And there is research to show that there's non-alcoholic fatty liver. There's a high indication of NAFL with bacterial overgrowth. And this is one of the most common liver diseases worldwide. It's affecting up to 30% of the population, and its prevalence is increasing as the obesity epidemic increases. So gut health is going hand in hand here with liver disease and our diet directly. And the gut is also an important vessel for phase 3 liver detoxification, which the pathways of liver detoxification 1, 2, and 3. So again, the gut is just super important for liver health and vice versa. And on the left here, we have an example of a happy gut microbiome where there's good guys, there's not so friendly guys that are well kept in check by good guys. So it's called a eubiotic state or non-dysbiosis state. We have a healthy mucus layer there. As you can see, that nice orange layer that's protecting the cell lining. Those epithelial cells are in the gut. So we have a strong epithelial barrier there with those tight junctions that are tight, close together, that are not being opened up. So we then have controlled transfer of nutrients and microbes to the liver. The liver is not being overloaded in this case because it's not receiving all of these toxins, right? So on the right hand side, when the bacteria are off balance and your whole microbiome is off balance, we then see increase in that toxin production from negative bacteria, from pathogenic bacteria. We see that mucus layer is really minimal there that protects the gut lining. We also then see space open up between the tight junction cells, which means one, you're having a leaky gut, and two, you're getting then higher amounts of microbes and nutrients and bacterial toxins, that LPS, that are entering the bloodstream, and that liver takes on a high load of what's going on there, such as just basically having to deal with this cleanup and making sure that it's trying to scoop up everything that's coming out of the gut. So the liver is taking on a higher load. When we have bacterial overgrowth, we have dysbiosis, things like IBS, where the microbiome is imbalanced. These are some general signs of poor liver and gallbladder dysfunction. We'll obviously be making these personalized assessments for you, but overall, these are some signs: gas, bloating, nausea, constipation, having hemorrhoids, having bad PMS, being irritable, definitely poor fat digestion because we need bile for our fat digestion in the gut, irregular stools, sleeplessness, insomnia. Those can be indications that your liver is having to work really hard in the middle of the night, and it shouldn't be, you're getting woken up because actually it could be your liver is just overworking. Gallstones, this can be seen in endoscopy, CT scan, or ultrasound. There's also a HIDA scan, which is a scan of the gallbladder that can assess for gallstones. You definitely, if you've had a gallbladder removal, we know that there is poor dysfunction of the liver upstream, and just even removing the gallbladder doesn't solve the issues. It just removes that organ. So there's still that dysfunction going on there. And we also can see in your labs if you have elevated liver enzymes, which are AST and ALT, and sometimes we see elevated bilirubin as well. So again, we'll make this personalized assessment for you. And I recommend these tests if you're having any of these vague issues. Definitely want to talk about it with your GI doctor, and I will be then reviewing any of your results. We'll talk a little bit about the major functions of bile and then why we need it, why it's important. So it's great for our fatty acid metabolism. Again, we were saying before, our fat digestion. So it's antimicrobial. So it kills off any bad microbes in the gut. So that's why with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it's, those bacteria don't like bile. So they denature it in the small intestine. So when you have good bile flow, you're killing off any bacteria that are there. But if you do develop an overgrowth, they tend to like to turn off that bile and kind of inactivate it. So then it becomes harder to digest your fats. So bile also excretes waste products through the gut in that way. So the liver uses bile as a vessel to then excrete any toxins via the stool. It's also really important for our blood sugar metabolism. It also is good for digesting fat soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K. It also provides, support to those without a gallbladder. That might be an option for you if you may need bile salts, just in case, you got the gallbladder removed, you might need them temporarily. And again, helpful for blood sugar levels, that blood sugar metabolism, important for energy levels. If you're not digesting your fats, you can feel kind of sluggish and just feel, fatigue. And those bile acids from the liver, they have a big impact on our microbiome. So when there is reduced bile flow, like I was saying before, in the gut, that is associated with bacterial overgrowth and inflammation. And there's this delicate balance of the microbiome, the bile acid pool, and this is all affected by what we eat, our diet, how often we take antibiotics, and our chronic disease states, and improving our metabolism, our diet, and reducing antibiotics, of course, and trying not to disrupt the gut microbiome, or improving the state of the gut microbiome, which we're doing in this program. That is all going to help this microbiome bile acid pool that's going to support your overall health. And again, it's important for that phase 3 toxin excretion. So the gallbladder is needed to excrete bile from the gut to then the stool to basically excrete carcinogens, heavy metals, any mercury, environmental toxins, excess hormones. So bile issues can then lead to toxin overload. So we want to make sure your bile is flowing well, and we want to support these processes. These are some reasons we may see poor gallbladder function, and this can be genetic, so family history. If you have a strong family history of gallbladder stones or dysfunction or gallbladder removal, we tend to see more in those children. A high inflammatory diet or high fat intake, high fried food intake, high processed food intake, lower fiber diet, we tend to see more gallstones. Um, Taking birth control raises the risk of poor gallbladder function or gallbladder removal. We just see an overall elevated risk in women, especially postpartum, because there's extra estrogen retention due to pregnancy or just being over 40 and aging. That is a higher risk factor for women. Sometimes even the gallbladder might not empty completely or as frequently as it needs to, and it can get sludgy in there. Some of that bile can get thick. Crash diets will also influence gallbladder function, as well as too rapid of weight loss. And then this leads to a host of problems like nutrient deficiencies, those fat soluble vitamins, a leaky gut, constipation where you're not going to the bathroom every single day. It could lead to hormone imbalance because the bile is responsible for excreting a lot of hormones from the liver, hypothyroidism as well. So again, important to check that thyroid panel with your primary doctor. Bacterial overgrowth, because you're not having that antimicrobial bile activity. Then we have, basically that, and that's just perpetuating your bloating, your symptoms. Then we have altered lipids as well as cholesterol levels because of poor gallbladder function. So that's another thing that can give us an indication in your lab work if you're having high cholesterol. And then we know that there is elevated toxic burden if you're unable to excrete toxins effectively, and this will then contribute to an increased fatigue. So these are just, again, some results of poor gallbladder function, and we'll get to some ways that we can improve gallbladder function and make sure that the bile is flowing well. But it's important to note on gallbladder removal because it's such a hidden epidemic in this country. So many people, over 1 million adults, get their gallbladder removed every year. And this can lead to a host of problems down the line. It takes so much time, years, to get to the point of having multiple stones, removal. So we want to be aware of some of those previous signs we talked about, signs of gallbladder studge and stone development, and some of those symptoms we talked about early in the PowerPoint, because we want to prevent gallbladder removal as best we can. It's an important organ, and many times it's just taken out without a care in the world. So we really want to be able to prevent it if we can. We want to be able to improve bile flow, because it can lead to a host of other gut problems later on. So many people will think that it's just going to solve their gut problems. We just remove the gallbladder, issue resolved, but the same dysfunctions can still be going on. They'll just be happening more upstream in the liver and the bile ducts. And just a note on SIBO, because so many of my clients have SIBO, over 50% of those with gallbladder removal actually develop SIBO because of that antimicrobial activity. So you remove the bile flow, you're not having as good bile flow at your meals to digest your fats. You can develop this overgrowth up in the small intestine. So bacteria in the small intestine, if they're there, they don't like bile, so they end up denaturing it and make it less effective for you at digesting and absorbing your fats, leading to symptoms like loose stools, some urgency, bile acid malabsorption. So when we treat the SIBO, this helps also improve fat digestion. So we want to make sure we, one, definitely improve bile flow itself, support it, maybe using some digestive enzymes and bile, replacing the bile in a supplement form at first, and treating SIBO itself will help improve the whole picture. And thyroid hormones, how does this all come together? So the gut, thyroid, and liver all have a synergistic relationship. They're all relying on each other to do their job well in order to have a healthy metabolism. So our bile, if we have good bile flow, it helps convert our T4, which is the inactive thyroid hormone, to T3 with the help from our microbes. So it's really important we have those healthy gut bacteria, right, guys? Because we need that bile conversion, we need that support to basically convert that T4 to T3. So we need good microbes for that, and we need good bile flow for that. And hypothyroidism could actually result from poor bile flow. So we always want to try to uncover the root cause here. So we'll be making sure you have good thyroid health, good thyroid stimulating hormone, good T4, T3, and we want to make sure your bile is flowing well because they all impact each other. And of course, number one, making sure you have a healthy microbiome because that is number one factor here. And bile flow is important for hormone health as well, and not just gut health. So, estrogen can actually, if you have too much of it, it can inhibit our bile salt production. And then that can influence the development of bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, or large intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It also then will delay gastric emptying if you have too much estrogen, which can influence constipation. So we need to make sure that our bile is flowing well to then excrete that excess estrogen as to not influence constipation. So it can be a little confusing, and we'll put this together if it pertains to you and your personalized plan. But here's just a little overview of how all these hormones, the thyroid, estrogen, bile, how it's all connected with your gut health. So finally, we'll talk about some ways that we can optimize your bile flow. So you always want to rule out any gallstones first with an upper abdominal ultrasound, endoscopy, could be CT scan as well. But if the bile is sludgy, that's not really something they would typically see, as a result on a test. So we want to kind of use we'll use our detective tools to see what symptoms you have, to, if you're having trouble digesting fats, nausea, we really want to optimize your bile flow, maybe support it if we need to help thin out the gallbladder bile and help contract the gallbladder to make sure that your fat is being digested properly at meals and you're getting enough bile at each meal to then digest, those fats, prevent loose stools. So we want to reduce inflammatory fats like red meat, bacon, processed meats, sausage, salami. We want to reduce vegetable oils like canola, soybean, cottonseed. These fats all contain omega-6 ratio, a high omega-6 ratio compared to omega-3. So they're slightly more inflammatory and they're not the best for our bile. They're in a lot of different foods like, processed snacks and crackers and chips. So they are hard to avoid in everything, but it is good to be really mindful of these and trying to choose more products that are low in these vegetable oils and higher in oils like avocado oil and extra virgin olive oil. Ghee is great too, which is clarified butter. Then we have seeds are awesome for healthy fats and nuts. So these are really great for our bile flow. We also want to make sure that we're supporting our stress daily with preventative practices like meditation, deep breathing, and we can create a specific goal for you for these throughout the week because it is so important for your gut health and your liver health. That cortisol, which is our stress hormone, it's processed by the liver. So that increases strain on our liver. We are in a state of fight or flight all the time, and we have too much stress in our daily life. We also know that exercise is really great for bile flow because it helps actually to contract the gallbladder. Supporting healthy stomach acid production is also really important for bile flow, starting upstream in that upper stomach that stimulates the gallbladder. We know ACV or apple cider vinegar is actually really great for bile flow as well. Digestive bitters, which may be part of your plan. Avoiding overly large meals, so having consistent meal times 3 times a day. If you are skipping meals, you do tend to eat a larger meal at your next meal. So keeping your meal times consistent helps with that. Staying hydrated, because at least half of our body weight in ounces daily is recommended, more or less for you if you have constipation or diarrhea, and that's in your welcome packet if you forgot. And 85% of bile is water. So we need that daily water intake for healthy bile production. Like we said before, you may need to supplement. This is very individualized to you and your needs. So we'll talk if this is necessary for you. And ox bile is typically what's used. So it does come from an animal product for those of you who are vegan and vegetarian. We do want to reduce refined sugar and processed foods and alcohol, anything that is straining on the liver and bile, and all of these are. So reducing, ice cream, cookies, mixed drinks, anything that is really processed, packaged. But obviously this is in moderation. We want to make sure you're having a healthy mindset around food, because we don't want you to go to such an all or nothing mindset when it comes to making changes. We really want to make sure that your changes are sustainable and healthy. We also know that deep breathing exercises actually massage the liver and support bile flow. So just a fun tip there. And we know that things like milk thistle, beetroot powder, that can be found in my Amazon storefront, ginger, NAC, green tea, curcumin, vitamin C, which is in most multivitamins, omega-3 fatty acids. These are all great supportive tools for liver health. We know choline is also really great for liver and bile flow. And choline is a nutrient that's found in grass-fed beef, eggs, navy beans, cauliflower, and lecithin. And as a dietitian, I'm sure you know I'm not really a big supporter of detoxes and cleanses where you're going like a full week without eating anything but broth. I really don't support these kind of diets. The crash diets, as we know, are really not even good for the gallbladder and the liver. And we know that the liver and the kidneys as well, must mention, they do a good job of really detoxifying on their own. We just need to support the process with a healthy diet by optimizing the gut microbiome and having a lower toxin load in the diet and in our everyday life. So reducing alcohol, not smoking, reducing BPA lined cans, saying no to plastic food containers, removing body care products and skincare products that are toxic. I always recommend using this EWG Healthy Living app to review and scan your products for toxicity, for allergens, for carcinogens. So definitely click the link and download that app. I'd love for you to try it. Try to get rid of like dryer sheets, fragrance laundry soap. Just anytime you run out of something, look on that EWG app for something a little bit more beneficial to replace it with, that is a little safer for you, your liver health, and for your family as well. And just some important foods to note that are amazing for liver and bile support. We have kale, cabbage, collard greens, anything really green and non-starchy is amazing. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, watercress, broccoli sprouts, rutabaga, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, beets, and artichokes. So I did note which ones are low FODMAP, which ones are not. So adjust according to your personal plan. But the more that you can increase these foods, the better. I'd recommend at least a few servings 2 or 3 times a week, making sure that you're getting a diverse diet with that half plate vegetables. That is always going to increase your liver and bile support just by doing, increasing your plant diversity, focusing on that diversity in your diet, especially with that half plate non-starchy vegetables twice daily. I also mentioned here coffee, pickled foods, strawberries. I linked a turmeric latte recipe, which is also in your document section, a matcha green latte. Matcha is super high antioxidant, super high polyphenol. Turmeric has curcumin, which its active compound, which is amazing for the gut and liver health. We also know adaptogens have some research showing that they are great for the liver and bowel support, like chaga, reishi, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is also great for stress, which in turn then is also good for liver health because it helps with your cortisol. We also know aloe vera juice. I don't really love the taste of it, but it is an option for supporting liver and bile flow. We have hibiscus tea as well as dandelion root tea. Dandelion root tea is one of my top favorites, I would say, for liver and bowel support. So check out your document section. I have a dandelion root latte, which can be hot or iced, which is nice. I also just wanted to note about acupuncture because there has been some research on acupuncture helping to relieve some pain from gallstones because it helps reduce spasms, it eases bile flow, and promotes proper function of just the entire organ. So it's worth mentioning. I love acupuncture. So just wanted to share this with you. If you have gallstones, if maybe getting your gallbladder removed. So if you have SIBO, so just important, just something to note because acupuncture can be a nice alternative medicine that's helpful to your plan. And just want to share the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 with you. These are updated every year and they help just reduce the stress bucket on your liver and your gut if you're paying attention to pesticides in your food, because that can affect inflammation levels and just affect your toxic load burden. So let's get to the Dirty Dozen. These are the top foods. This is 2022's list. So this does change every year, but they tend to stay pretty similar. So check in your document section for this year's list, which you can also cut out and bring with you and put in your wallet, which is nice. So the Dirty Dozen is recommended to buy organic because it has high levels of pesticides. So it starts actually as number 1 being the dirtiest or having the most pesticides, and number 12 being the cleanest on the list. Still pretty high in pesticides though. So I'd recommend buying all of these foods organic if you can, and then buying the foods on the Clean 15 list not organic because they have found to be pretty safe with pesticide levels. They have the cleanest amounts. They're not heavily pesticide laden like the Dirty Dozen list. And a lot of these foods, if you'll notice, tend to have skin that you peel off, or that maybe you won't be eating the actual, you won't be biting into the fruit itself. Not always the case, but that tends to happen, like the avocado, pineapple, onion, papaya. We're not eating that outer layer, the kiwi, so you tend to not really need to buy this organic. So just helps save money, so you're not trying to buy everything organic too, which is nice. So definitely download these PDFs from your document section. So just wanted to note on the liver's master antioxidant, which is called glutathione. We want to make sure glutathione is in tip-top shape to support our gut health, to support the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. I know, I'm sure you remember that from science class, brains and lungs. So we have a lot of supportive things that we can do. Everything we've talked about in our program, the PowerPoint so far, there are some supportive tips here, and we'll see which ones are right for you specifically. So you and I will talk. We have magnesium glycinate, which is one of my favorite forms of magnesium. It's really easy on the GI tract. We have curcumin, which we talked about, which is the active compound in turmeric. And you have a whole PDF on turmeric and how to use it. I believe it says 7 ways to use turmeric in your everyday diet. So check that out. We also have NAC, which is the precursor to glutathione, which is taken as a supplement. We have green tea. So as you can see, green tea is a major recommendation here. I love green tea, love matcha. You just want to make sure you're getting good matcha and not, a low quality matcha. So definitely check out matchas on my Amazon list. We have milk thistle, which is supportive to glutathione levels, dandelion root, L-glutamine, which is also supportive for gut permeability. We have selenium, a nutrient that's important for thyroid health. And I have a PDF or a PNG image of selenium foods that are great for boosting that nutrient, and ALA. And we have pancreatic enzyme support and bile flow support if needed. And those can also help support glutathione. So important to note as well, alcohol depletes glutathione. So it is possible as well to take like NAC or glutathione before and after drinking alcohol as to not deplete all of your glutathione stores. So something to note. And coming back to the gut, we know that going to the bathroom every single day, having complete bowel movements, not being constipated, this is also really important for liver detoxification because if we're not going to the bathroom, we're not excreting all the toxins that the liver needs to excrete. So the stool on the Bristol stool chart, so check out your document section if you don't remember the stool chart, but between a 3 and a 4, which is basically like what a normal banana shaped bowel movement will look like, with minimal wiping needed, that indicates a full and healthy elimination. And that is what we want every single day to help eliminate toxins we need to eliminate from the liver. So we know that when we have constipation, we can create a more taxed liver because, then the toxins from our food are then in contact with the GI wall and the GI lumen for a longer period of time. And then they're actually then reabsorbed by our bloodstream and recircled back into the liver again. So we have constipation, we get buildup of toxins, we get buildup of hormones like estrogen that aren't excreted properly. So as you can see, it's all connected, where for the liver health, for gut health, we want to make sure we're having daily proper elimination with a healthy bowel movement. And lastly, just to note some other ways that we can support liver detoxification and excretion. We know sweating, Epsom salt baths are very beneficial for liver support, hot yoga, sauna, infrared or dry saunas. And we know that having a cool shower after sweating from these activities is important pretty quickly because we don't want to reabsorb toxins that were excreted. And I have some links on my Amazon page for some of my favorite Epsom salt bath salts. So definitely check that out. So I hope you like this presentation. You can ask me any questions in the Facebook group and we can chat about it on our next call. So yes, love to hear from you soon and I'll talk to you in the group. Bye.